Loki Season 2 Episode 4 just blew the minds of Marvel fans, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the episode. I'm going to give my thoughts on what that crazy ending means. There is almost too much to break down in this episode, so I'm going to do my best, but I'm also going to keep it brief for you guys so I can give my thoughts. So if you guys notice anything about this episode and anything that I missed, leave it in the comment section. Lastly, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and over 90% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you guys could make my dreams come true and hit that button, I would really appreciate it. But with all that stuff out of the way, let's talk Loki Season 2, Episode 4. This episode starts off with Ravona, Renslayer, and Miss Minutes at the Citadel at the end of time, which we remember from last week's episode, but also is the same place from the end of Loki Season 1. Miss Minutes reveals the secret to Renslayer that Kang and Ravona were actually partners, and He Who Remains actually wiped the minds of everybody at the TVA. We can see all of the timelines going crazy, and Miss Minutes said maybe we didn't need He Who Remains anyway. Maybe Ravona, maybe Renslayer can control everything. Back at the TVA, Victor Timely arrives, and he is walking through these halls realizing that his life has so much of a greater purpose than he could have ever imagined. He sees the murals that we saw in previous episodes showing the war between all of the Kangs, the timekeepers, and everything that we've kind of seen play out or will see play out in the future. He's sort of freaking out, but Loki and Mobius reassure him that he's here to do good. He has to fix the temporal loom because things are about to go nuts. They go see Ouroboros, and it's really cool seeing OB meet He Who Remains or Victor Timely because, well, they're both huge fans of each other. A very interesting paradox is pointed out here with OB learning everything from the TVA handbook to write it from Victor Timely, and Victor Timely learning everything from the handbook that OB wrote. They point it out as a snake eating its own tail. A very interesting concept, kind of harkening back to what came first, the chicken or the egg. And we honestly don't know. There seems to be a very important relationship between OB and He Who Remains or Victor Timely. And while we do have the answers to some questions, and I don't think OB is necessarily a bad guy, there's definitely a lot more to learn with these two, and they have a moment where they shake hands, and Sylvie is very cautious of this. Because Victor Timely has created the prototype for the temporal loom, his abilities and his skills will come into play, and they're hoping that he could fix the big temporal loom that is controlling all of the timelines. Because as of right now, there are too many branches that need to be woven back into the singularity. Loki and Sylvie have another great dialogue, and in this conversation, Loki points out that he has to be the one that maybe controls the TVA in the end. He has to do the greater good. Sylvie asks him what if he's wrong about all of this. Well, Loki has no other choice. This is their only option. They have to use this man who they know is going to cause so much harm and so much chaos in the future to help them prevent chaos and danger happening right now. Loki's goal here is to revamp the TVA and form it into something better. I really am a huge fan of the idea that Loki and possibly Sylvie will run the TVA after this is all said and done. I think having Loki, the god of mischief, who once was a terrible villain, now reforming into a hero and now being this sort of controller of timelines is a very interesting concept, and I think his character has definitely been redeemed and has definitely changed. We then flash back over to Dox and Brad, and while I thought these scenes were going to be completely boring, well, I was wrong. Renslayer shows up with Miss Minutes and tries to recruit Dox and Brad and all of the rogue TVA agents from the previous episode and help her take back over the TVA. The only problem is Dox doesn't align with her still. She knows that Renslayer is up to no good, and well, for that they are punished. While Brad is saved because he sides with Ravona, all of the other rogue TVA agents, including Dox, get put into the time box that we saw Loki use on Brad in a prior episode, and she shrinks it and destroys and kills all of them. It was a very brutal scene, and while we didn't visually see anything, the sounds, the screams, and just sort of thinking with your imagination what's going on inside this box as it screams and squeezes into oblivion was horrifying. We also see Miss Minutes very excited with Ravona killing all of these agents, and it's extremely disturbing. Kind of hard to believe that they put this in a Disney Plus TV show, but I'm glad they did. I'm glad they're appealing to the more mature audience, and this isn't the last thing in the episode that appeals to that sort of mature style. When catching back up with Loki, Mobius, and Victor Timely, Victor is very concerned about this hot chocolate machine, and I thought this was going to go somewhere a little bit further, but no, he's just completely fascinated with the idea that a machine can create hot chocolate. Remember, he's a con man. He's kind of just, creating things, inventing things to get by, not really aligning with anybody or having any loyalties to anyone. We've seen him multiple times, including in this episode where he's with Ravona, where he's with Miss Minutes, where he's with Loki and Sylvie and Mobius. Whatever side is winning or has the advantage, he's siding with them as long as it keeps him safe. And I think that's a very cool characteristic that maybe can transfer to another variant of Kang, but I think it's very cool to have this visualized in the form of Victor Timely, where he's just a very smart yet timid man. And to piggyback off of this, the TVA agent that takes Victor Timely to the hot chocolate machine is pruned by Brad, and Brad takes Victor to Ravona and Miss Minutes, and again, he switches sides, acting like he was on their side all along. The temporal loom is about to completely explode, and they have to do something similar to what they did in the first, I think second maybe, episode of this season, where Mobius goes out on the track to fix it. Only something's weird this time. This feels all too familiar because, again, this is something that they had to do before. We see the events of the prior episode converge with the episode happening right now, and we find out when Loki has to, click the stopwatch and go back to fix everything to save Mobius and himself. The person who prunes him from behind, I was correct, was another Loki. In fact, it was the current Loki. It was just himself in the past, or technically in the future. It's very cool seeing this come to life, and it is a little bit confusing as to what this means, because afterwards, when Sylvie opens the elevator, he says this will all make sense soon, meaning future tense. But then we find out who is on the phone, and yes, it's just Ouroboros. Kind of a fake out, but I like it because, well, it just makes sense. Casey, Mobius, and Ouroboros find out a way to use magic in the TVA, and Loki and Sylvie use this to their advantage by using magic on Brad, with Sylvie taking control over his body to prune Renslayer. And while this is happening, Miss Minutes is also deteriorating and degrading and sort of disappearing because OB, Mobius, and the crew are succeeding. So now technically everything is going according to plan. Renslayer's gone, Miss Minutes is gone, Brad is being controlled by Sylvie. Everything is looking like it might be fixed. Victor Timely chooses to go out there and fix the machine because he created it, and this is his calling. We get the tremendous score building up while he's about to go out there, making us think, okay, is this guy actually good? Is he going to be different than all of his other variants? He steps out to do his heroic act, and then all of a sudden, he's turned into spaghetti. In a very violent and disgusting scene, this proves what OB was talking about in the prior episode of having his body split into millions of pieces in a most painful death. Victor Timely is gone, and along with it, the machine to fix everything. It was such a wild turn because it was kind of hopeful, and all of the sudden, it was just complete, utter eeriness and dread. There's absolutely nothing they can do now. They sit and watch the temporal loom explode and have all of the timelines, well, just, explode. We see the light constantly get brighter, and everyone has a terrible look, a terrified look on their face. Most notably, you can see the pure fear in Loki's eyes as the explosion occurs, as it shakes everything explodes, and then it cuts to black. This is the end of the episode. What just freaking happened? Have all of the timelines just been erased? Has everything just disappeared? Or has everything just started over again? There are so many different theories, and honestly too many different things that this could mean, but I'm gonna give you the surface level sort of basic response that I think this could possibly play on for the last two episodes. First, I think time travel is definitely going to be involved in this somehow. We've already seen it used in the TVA before, and we know it can be used again. But the fact that everything just sort of exploded, the TVA is now gone, I guess. Everybody just dies? It's giving me heavy Infinity War vibes, and it was an awesome ending that really tailors towards a third act setup. We've had the first act with the first two episodes, the second act with the third and fourth episode, and then our final act with the next 2 weeks. I have no idea where they could go from here. We have to take several things into consideration. One, Renslayer is now in the void because she was pruned. Now, the void is set outside of time, so even if all of these timelines that we just witnessed are gone and the TVA itself is gone, the void probably still remains. And with that being said, do all of the people who just died in the TVA go to the void now? Is Marvel hitting a reset button here? I'm seeing a couple people say that, and I don't think this is the case, and if it is the case, they're going to fix it somehow because we have movies in the future, we have Marvels coming out in just a couple weeks. But this is extremely exciting for multiple reasons. One, this is the multiversal saga. We're going to get answers as to why we have multiple timelines, what everything means in the past couple installments with the movies and TV shows are, and hopefully we just get some answers. I'm very, very curious as to what you guys think the results of this are, so please let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to read all of your comments, and I most likely will respond. This show has been very good so far. I've really enjoyed my time. Loki season 1 was one of my favorites, and this season has not let me down so far. It does have some slow parts, but these are the character building moments that we've been missing from other projects. I care about all of these characters characters, and I didn't want to see what happened happen. I'm confused, I'm shocked, and I'm excited to see where this goes, and we only have to wait one more week. And I think the best and honestly most important thing about this is we have no idea what's going to happen next. This isn't something that was predictable. We have a Kang variant who just got killed in a matter of seconds. We have the entirety of the TVA, including our beloved characters, now just gone. Do we have to rely on Renslayer and all of these other people that we don't like to save the day? There's so many different things going on in my head that I can use to try and explain what just happened, but I don't think it's even going to be possible to know what they're going to do because there are just so many options. So again, leave your thoughts on what you possibly think could happen, and I will see you all very soon.